Welcome to the Metal Temple interview. I have Morphide here, an extreme metal band originally from Latvia, residing in Denmark. It is really a pleasure to have you here, so welcome to the interview.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
This year is a special year, the year where many things start going normal. The touring restarted. So what did Morphide do this year in terms of touring?
In terms of touring, Morphide did absolutely nothing.
Oh.
And we have a reason for that. It's because it reopens and it's amazing, and we see bands touring, which is really great. But we have a little bit complicated setup. Half of our musician is in Denmark, some part is in Latvia. We don't live in one city, so we still see concerts being postponed or scheduled, or rescheduled, or even cancelled. And we really didn't want to risk it yet, and we wanted to see how the winter goes, because the numbers might increase, everything might get in lockdown, and we really don't want to disappoint people after all these years of waiting. Our last tour was in 2019, and it would be not a big pleasure for us to just reschedule or cancel. So we decided to wait a little bit and instead go with our original music to get more content, more new songs for them. So when we go on tour, hopefully next year, we really hope to go on tour in 2023. We have even more songs to show, new singles and something, so we can, share with the people.
Yeah, I noticed that it is still a little bit unstable. There are also a lot of pre-corona shows that are rescheduled. For the venue, it's all a little bit crowded, and some shows are even off because of numbers increasing and policies have changed. Also the costs, I think, are increasing. Yeah, hopefully it will work for you next year, because you never know what happens and what's going on. Yeah, it's crazy. Let's talk about the band's history. It's an alternative progressive metal band, originally, I said, from Latvia. So when did you form, and what was the intention to form Morphide?
So we we were classmates back in Latvia, and somehow, almost 10 years ago, we started writing something together. It was nothing serious, it was just small attempts. When we moved to Copenhagen, we decided that we really need to form a band together, because he's a guitar player, I'm a singer, that's a good duo. And we had started with a cover project first in 2015, just to learn how to do things. And then we decided after a couple of years to create a Morphide as a actual band. And the first Morphide single came out in 2019, I guess, in June. So, yeah. It was Mayhem. And then, things went pretty fast since then, because we already in November 2019, we went on tour and we released a couple of singles. Then it slowed down because of pandemic, but in general, we had a active start in 2019.
Yeah. So you were one of those bands that basically formed prior to the pandemic, started, releasing things, and then you got halted in your career because of the pandemic.
Exactly.
Sorry, yeah.
Right. You are the both permanent member. Eissa, you are the vocalist, and Kris, you are basically the multi-instrumentalist, playing everything.
The instrumentalist, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So are you planning to have a complete lineup, especially when you plan to go for touring, or how is that?
I would say definitely we do. We don't want to be those bands that are just playing to our, I don't know, backtracks or something. I would say previously what we did for the tour is we just asked our friends to play with us and to learn our songs. And that sort of worked. But I think, let's say, me personally as an individual, I would really love to more make a more permanent lineup, and most importantly with people who also enjoy that style of music and who want to play in this genre and the songs that we do. So I would say in the ideal world, I would like to just find people whom I would like to play with and would like to just do this stuff with us. And I would say we've been trying to do that throughout the entire like history of the band. But unfortunately, I would say it's not that easy. And in many ways, I mean, doing such a project actually requires quite a lot of sacrifice, like time-wise and other things like that. And when you're in this like in this age, basically, you probably have a full-time job because you want to work something out with your life. And those guys that just went full steam with the musician's career, like back 10 years ago, they probably have a band. So it's not that easy to find like permanent members, but we are definitely still like looking for people, and we have some people who we think might join us, but we just want it to maybe happen naturally. So we maybe just try to play with these guys, maybe even hang out and see if the chemistry is right. So I mean, I would say we're not rushing with it. We just want it to happen naturally. Yeah.
And I guess when you look for new members or permanent members, you do want them to fully focus on Morphide, isn't it?
Not necessarily. Well, it really depends on what you mean by that. I mean, I definitely don't want them to quit their jobs and just become full steam musicians.
Yeah, risk their lives and futures for us. That's very nice, but not mandatory.
That's definitely not what we would ask for now, at least at this stage of the band. I mean,
but for me, I think it's quite important that they're not overcrowded with their side projects, because that might tend to get just messy, you know, like tours might overlap, shows might overlap, and then you need to give a priority to something, and it's always not a nice way to deal with those things when, you know, when your member might just say like, oh, sorry, I actually already want to go on tour with those guys, so figure out what you can. So maybe, you know, like not sacrificing totally their like jobs and careers, but maybe having Morphide as their main like focus in terms of music. That would be really sweet.
That's what I meant. I mean, nowadays many musicians have multiple bands compared to the past. So let's say 20, 30 years ago, where everyone had his main band. So, but nowadays everyone has multiple bands. But you are looking for musicians that, at least musically, have their main focus on Morphide then. Yeah,
I would say, and again, it preferably should just come from the interest itself. Like, ideally, I don't know. I mean, I hope we can find guys who just like our stuff and just would like to contribute.
Yeah, passion is the key.
I think the main thing is just the guy comes and say, I really like it and I just want to be part of it. I think that's very good for the start.
Little is known about yourself as musicians. So let's start with Kris. How did you start? When did you start your music career, and how did you come to metal?
All right, I think it started when I was around 15. So I would say I always liked metal in general. Like I think when I was 12, 13, I really dug into Linkin Park. I think that was like my first band that I fell in love with. And then at the age of 15, I was invited to my first band, where I was a bass player, of course. So typical stuff. And at this point, I didn't have any experience with any musical instruments. Like I basically had my classical guitar at home in a closet lying there for years, and that's basically it. But my friend was pretty good musician back then. He was pretty good guitar player and vocalist. So he had a band and he invited me to be a bass player. And I sort of, just let's go do it, man. That's how it started. And I was a bass player for a couple of years, and then I just liked it quite a lot. And somehow I started writing my own songs, actually. And then I had my own band couple of years later after that, where I was a rhythm guitar player and a vocalist, and that was going for a couple of years. And actually that's where we shifted to, or we traveled to Denmark with Liz, and that's where I more shifted my focus to guitar and more like songwriting direction. Whereas Eissa more started like singing and being a singer kind of thing. So yeah, I just had a couple of bands before, and I don't really have any education, to be honest. I just sort of figured it all out myself, just watching YouTube videos, to be honest, and just trying and error. I'm still doing that, so definitely not stopping there. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say, to be honest. Maybe what is important is that I used to be a vocalist myself.
Okay.
So when I'm composing, I am composing with some vocals in mind. Okay. Maybe that is what is good about me. I don't know. At least I'm trying to do it. So sort of, I'm not just writing some instrumental that I just then throw on her. I actually sort of do it in mind that, okay, this part will be really good for vocal stuff. And if it's not, what I can do to make it good for it. So yeah, but I think that's it for me.
You both come from Latvia. How did you end up in Denmark?
Oh, it was
Baltic Sea connection, or is it?
It's a Baltic Sea connection, and it's actually living in poor country. It's tough to combine. So the thing is that I was a smart kid and he was not. But somehow we started dating, and it changed everything, because as a smart kid, I really didn't want to pay for my education when I graduated from school. And Latvia actually has very limited possibilities of free education. And I was a really good student. I was working 12 years in my like a lot.
And I was like, I want to be in the band.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
Like I want to be a musician, and I was just science and stuff. And I just knew that I didn't want to pay money for my education, because like I was top 5 always, like at my school, for example. And I started looking for free possibilities, like free education countries. And I had in mind like UK at that point. There was like Denmark, a couple of others. It just happened that Denmark was the best option. There was the best program. The education was in English. It was free, and it was close to Latvia, so we could travel a lot. That was just so random, to say the truth.
Okay, I see. Is there a ferry connection to Latvia, or?
There's no direct ferry. There's direct ferry from Copenhagen to Oslo, or from Latvia to Sweden. But I mean, there's very good flights. There's like 1 hour flights. Like it's sometimes faster for me to travel to Latvia than to go to the other side of Copenhagen,
Okay. Interesting. Eissa, you are the vocalist. When did you start singing, and how did you come to metal?
I started singing when I was 9. I always had this tendency to sing, and my parents were really good parents. They were looking at what I'm enjoying, and they were sending me to those, classes or courses. So they actually got me a classical vocal coach. She was a soprano, and she was teaching me like academic singing, and I was singing since the age of 9. And then around the age of 12, she put me into like a Renaissance ensemble, where I was singing like more like, medieval songs, which was also cool. And then I actually got my first job at the age of 15, when I was singing in church. And I was getting paid for that, which was really nice for me, because I was earning money with my singing. But it was exactly the same age when I was like invited to a band. I was in metal since 10 or something. I was really enjoying like those old, like Old Bring Me the Horizon, all of that. And I was actually called to join a band as a singer. I was like, yeah, why not? And yeah, I was going to church singing there, and then I was just flying to a venue, doing black makeup, eyes and stuff, and then just screaming on stage. And it was like happening for 3 years, since like until we graduated. So yeah, and then when we moved to Denmark, I started to, I realized I have many flaws in my vocals again, because my background was academic singing, and it's a bit different from what I needed from myself. And also, extreme vocals, like nobody taught me that in church. So I had to look for other vocal coaches, and I'm still doing that. That's basically my little hobby, I would say, like trying different vocal coaches and learning new stuff and new techniques. It's constant. I think as a musician, Kris can I think, agree that as a musician, you never stop. There's always something for you to explore, learn, investigate, dig into it. And that's just, yeah, that's a whole new journey.
So you seem to love the student life, isn't it?
It was fun.
You do use your clean voice and you do have the classical education, but you also use growling techniques. When did you start with growling?
I was trying like around 2015 or something, but that was all self-taught, and I'm not that blessed by whatever forces a person who figures it out by himself. I actually couldn't figure it out myself without harming my voice. So I think it was 2018 when I was just so pissed off with my like technique that I started like going like all in with all vocal coaches, just writing to everybody I could for whatever money. And actually my first vocal coach was Daniel Tompkins, who he doesn't do it anymore, but there was like a small period of time when he opened slots for students, and I was like, I'm in, yeah, I'm just going there. So I started going to those like people who actually are musicians themselves, and they know those secrets of how to do it on the stage, how to switch from clean voice to like screaming voice and all of that. And in 2018, I started really looking into those extreme vocal techniques. And my like key factor was that it's safe, that it doesn't blow my voice, because as you mentioned, I also use my clean voice, so I can't afford myself to lose any of the like qualities in my tone because I do something incorrectly. So
I do talk to a lot of vocalists and who also use extreme vocals, growl, screams, etc. And they all tell me a different story. So I would think 50% are doing it by themselves. They are learning that from videos, from concerts, etc. The other half goes to courses. So what would you recommend?
I mean, if somehow the person can't figure it out by himself, and it's he feels that like it doesn't burn, he doesn't lose his voice, somehow it's working for him, then whatever works for you, just do it. I'm really happy that you could figure it out yourself.
Right.
But if you couldn't, like me, there's nothing to be really, depressed about. It's actually just as any other thing in your life. You go and you learn it, and you just need to find a teacher. And a good teacher can actually teach you pretty fast, like the very basics. And then when you have those basics, you know how to not ruin your voice and how to, do everything correctly. You can build up your technique. You can, polish it, shape it as you want, have more of this, more of that, somehow come up with your own style. But I mean, if you figure it out yourself, fine. If you didn't, fine. You maybe need to invest a little bit of money, find a good vocal coach who can do it, pretty well, and he will teach everything. So like for me, it was like more like coaching, because they explain me all all issues, and I really like to ask very picky questions, like, oh, why if I do it like this, what happens? And then they're like, yeah. So it's like it's fun for me. But yeah.
Which screaming techniques do you use actually for the album, for example?
I use mostly and mainly fry screams.
Okay.
But sometimes I add a little bit of false chord to my clean vocals to add this grit to my tone. So if all like screamings and growls are fry screams, and maybe a little bit of false chord for a flavor of clean vocals.
What actually do you prefer, the cleans or the screams?
Oh, I prefer cleans, because to me they're more diverse. Like I can do more things with my cleans. It's like how strongly I deliver, how high or low I can go, how I can play with my tone. But screams are actually easier for me. They're just, especially fry screams, they're very lightweight, so you almost feel nothing like when you scream. And like the fact that I was once trying to see how long I can sustain my fry screams, it was 55 seconds on one breath. It was like, it's amazing. It's great. Like it's very easy and pleasant to do, actually.
It seems to be playing guitar is a little bit easier, isn't it?
I actually don't know. I mean, I think I would say yes. The main difficulty with vocals, and especially extreme vocals, because I talk a lot with Liz, is because you don't really know what's happening here.
Yeah.
You don't have direct connection. Like you, of course, can feel, but you don't really have any like nerves or.
I mean, you can't look at it, you know, come to
you don't really
mirror and then check what am I doing there or touch it somehow. It's all inside.
You
so.
don't have a direct control of what's happening here. That's because when people are learning how to sing, they often are given some, okay, imagine something.
Yeah.
Or like, because this imagination or feeling, like imagine you're feeling something, can trigger the like required muscles to make it like the proper shape and things like that. Like with guitar, it's much more easy because, oh, here's the hands, you put it here and like easier to look at.
Let's talk about the album, Anhedonia. It has been released last month. How was the response so far?
It was actually really good. Maybe even surprisingly good for us. I mean, so far we didn't hear single negative word, none. Like it's such a great feeling, but everybody's taking it really good, and we're really, really happy.
Yeah. So thanks a lot.
Yes.
Kris, what is the concept behind the album, and how do you describe the sound of the album?
It's pretty interesting. I mean, I would say that what really kicked off this album was when me and Eissa, we really fell in love with progressive music. And that's being, let's say, main Carnival, Tesseract, what else? Nordling was later, but basically this kicked it off. And I think the main thing that really triggered us is first, like, as you really often describe in other interviews, like the concept of music breathing. Like when you have this contrast between melodic and relaxed sections and then pretty heavy and aggressive, which makes a very, very interesting contrast between each other. And it really helps to enhance different emotional characteristics of these parts or sound or melodies. And for me, I mean, I would say the concept behind, like, there's no like deep concept behind the album, but I think it's just how you can convey emotions. And for me, this album, and probably for you, was just conveying emotions.
I think also what makes like it's for us like a main trigger, like why we love this progressive music, is because it's very free in terms of how you want to write it. So some genres are more specific. You have to have like verse, chorus, like breakdown done. But with the progressive music, you're actually free to do whatever you want. And we also try to do it quite a lot in our songs. Like there are some songs which don't have verse or chorus or repeated patterns. I mean, they're just, you know, moving as they want. And this feeling of, you know, breathing and freedom on some kind of like creative just explosion for us, it's something that we really wanted to put into album. And as Kris said, that all of things mesh up together and then they like raise some kind of feelings. This is what we really tried to achieve with this album.
Yeah.
I noticed that during my review, there is a certain complexity in your song structures quite often, which makes it more interesting to listen. But that is the nature of having progressive elements in the sound, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, you don't focus on having verse, chorus. You're just more so how you feel the song should go. And sometimes we feel it weird.
It's sometimes
yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes it's pretty hard to like find a compromise or like this ratio of weirdness, but also some common sense. And that's when quite often, like when we write songs, we need to listen to it like many times to come to a conclusion. Okay, this part is like, is this part okay right now here, this position, or actually it sounds weird and we need to put something else. Like when you start like discovering or just doing these weird things, you also still want to be like to make it musical and logical and natural, but it's much more complicated to make it still natural but being weird. So yeah, there needs to be some consideration when you do these things.
When I reviewed the album, I actually noticed two strengths that are the guitars. So I felt especially in terms of the technical quality, they are excellent. And that are the second one are the vocals. So, and especially the versatility of the vocals, the vocal range, that was very impressive. And I felt in terms of the composition of the songs were all tailored towards Eissa's vocal strengths. Was that intentional, or was it rather accidental, or how does the songwriting work?
I think it was a big skill of Kris, as he said before, being a little bit of vocalist himself as well,
Right.
feeling how to write so that I can show my vocals the best. It's actually a blessing for a singer to have something like that, because he also thinks a lot about, is it comfortable for me actually to sing this? Because sometimes people don't think about like how comfortable is for a singer. They just write song, and then you realize that for a great chorus you need to go very, very, very high, you know, and then you somehow need to sing it live. So this is what we also like think about when we write our songs, especially Kris thinks like, is it comfortable? Because if it's not, he may just completely rewrite the whole place for me, and I'm just so happy at this point.
We had such a fun moment lately. Like basically I have written a little chorus part and said, okay, try to write some vocal lines over it. And she tried, and I sort of didn't like what she wrote, and I said, okay, let me try. Well, since I am a little bit of a vocalist, I can also put some melodies. And I go into the vocal booth and I try and see like, man, I can do it too, because it's just not good. So I like, nah, it's bad. So also things like that happen.
Yeah.
Question might be a little bit premature because you have only released one album, but is the sound on the album already the trademark Morphide sound that you want to achieve, or okay?
Actually, not at all.
Not at all.
Okay.
It's just such a like stage. I don't know.
Right.
It's like we have a ladder. It's like step one.
Okay.
Maybe.
What's your intention then?
I mean, it's you know, it's all experimental. It depends on our taste at some point of time, so it can change always. Currently, we're looking more into like modern metal and, you know, having more screams, and also like we still like, I think the trademark would be this sense of breathing. This is what I really don't want to give up because I love it so much. So what we will try to do is still, no matter how heavy or like light songs are, we still want to have this feeling of like, you know, big contrast and then like big shifts like in coolness. But I mean, yeah, we want to go more to a like faster paced dynamic songs that can, you know, work really well live on a stage. But we don't want to focus on one thing, and we still want to keep like low paced melodic songs with no screams, for example. So that's, you know, like freedom of creativity, but we're definitely nowhere close to,
okay.
to
I think we're definitely still developing as musicians, and I mean, with every new song that we do, we sort of think that we are a little bit on the next step, and then for some time we like that new song, and we start actually not disliking the old songs, no, but we sort of start looking on them. Oh yeah, that was pretty okay.
For that time, yeah.
Yeah, for that.
We did good back then.
And we're constantly like thinking that we're doing better, but maybe not better is maybe the wrong word. Like we think that we did better than before, which doesn't not necessarily that something that we did before was bad, but it's just something that we think is better, if it makes sense.
People might disagree, actually.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. But yeah, I mean, the new songs are a little bit different that we do, but we're still super happy about it, how they are turning out. I think that's the main part. I mean, as long as we are happy ourselves.
Yeah, sure. I noticed one thing, the songs from the Anhedonia album, some of them were released already in 2019. I think you started in 2019, 2020. Is Anhedonia in principle a collection of the songs of the last 2 to 3 years, or how is it?
It was basically when we started releasing our first singles, we already knew we were going to release an album. We had an album name in mind. We just didn't know the exact date because we were still composing songs. And our original plan was, you know, we started in 2019, and somewhere in 2020, we were actually already planning to release an album. We had, I think, 5 songs released so far, and our next step would be just to release an album. But then the COVID started, and everything just, you know, started falling out. And yeah, we were so confused of what to do, and we couldn't tour, we couldn't properly write. We were locked in our houses. Everybody knows this story, okay? So it's not new. But I mean, yeah, and it all became so slower, and yeah, we just, you know, we couldn't figure out what to do with the album because it's still not finished, and we don't like, and the more time it takes, the more you start like, you know, wanting to change something. So yeah, it was planned to be like a single album, but it happened to be a bit more singles in between.
I was wondering, singles that has been released in 2019, especially you are a young developing band, could be very different 2 or 3 years later, isn't it?
Yeah,
true.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's why I think really this album is a mixture of things, and it's almost like you can see how our own tastes were developing with this album.
I think I heard a couple of reviewers who were just, you know, going through all album and making reviews, and they were like, I think this is the first song they wrote. And I'm like, yes, you got it right. So you can really hear how we were starting, and then how we were changing, and that's kind of cool. That's a whole story, you know. Album is a story itself. It's really fun how it happened. But yeah, in future we really not plan to spend so much time on one album because we don't want it to be that, you know, like different in terms of level and our own tastes.
Yeah, and regarding especially your versatility with the vocals, so I think you could be likewise a melodic metal singer, and also you could be a death metal singer, so you could basically be everything within that range. So favorite songs?
But I mean, just before the next topic, I mean, at the same time, it makes it super interesting. Like if I write some crazy part, let's say I make a melodic song and then I want some extreme something, then we can do it. I mean, it's also fun. Like we are not really putting ourselves into some brackets. Like basically whatever we want to do, we can do. So.
Maybe that's why I always look for new vocal coaches, because I feel this pressure of needing to do everything from him.
You know, I guess after the interview, you get offers from 10 different bands looking for a vocalist, because they can expand their boundaries.
Feel free to reach out. I actually open for collaborations and, you know, stuff.
Favorite songs on the album? Mine are, let me check, Mayhem and Queen of Flame. What are yours? What are yours?
I still think that one of the best overall written songs is Panopticon. I really like how it turned out. And I think my second favorite is either We Are One or Catharsis. I don't know. So it's one of the more recent songs. I think with these ones, I'm just really happy how they turned out, like energy-wise, and like the structure, and just how the song progresses. I think that really is something that I think I'm developing in the right direction.
For me, it's definitely We Are One. It's my top one always, and I know that it's not like top song. It's not even like good enough to release it as a single, but for me, it's the best song.
That being said, I'm still like Mayhem quite a lot.
Yeah, actually, I'm still surprised, but after all these years, first song that we released, Mayhem, is we still really enjoy it.
It turned out really good, I think.
You know, the first song is always a little bit like the baby, you know.
Yeah.
Videos. You released a lot of videos for an album. How does the video process work? Let's say from the idea to the shoot.
Well, idea might depend on the lyrics quite a lot. So our first music videos were mostly plot music videos. We didn't have any musicians. We just decided that we were going to tell a story in music videos. And they are mostly based on what I'm singing in the song. And since, you know, the topic Anhedonia is in general kind of negative. So usually the plot of the music video can be also like very, not so optimistic. But when we speak about, for example, like performance music videos like Panopticon or Catharsis or, you know, all these, somehow I feel like it's a bit weird, but I feel like the mood gives color. So already from that one, we can imagine what colors I want to have on those songs. Like, what tone should it be? Is it cool? Is it bright? Like, for example, Catharsis is all like orange, red, bright, and it's also like what we have on our album cover, those colors there, like bright red, orange and stuff. Panopticon is much cooler to me, like it's more bluish. So it's also somehow visuals, they come out from the mood of the song, the ambience that Kris writes, all those like guitar elements, they somehow give this mood as well. So and then and then we start looking for possibilities and location and position.
Do you work then with an agency, or do you do everything by yourself?
I would say the second one. Before, like our first, I would say four music videos.
Yeah.
We worked with different people, and they were really cool.
Right.
But then pandemic, no travel, and lots of limitations. So somehow at that point we shifted more to DIY approach, and we started with, I think it was Aftermath, basically post-pandemic music video. Like, we call it visualizer because it's just, us walking on empty streets in lockdown, like when the lockdown, I think it was stopped. The first day after the lockdown, it was taken off. And somehow we kind of were like, okay, that's not too bad. And we can, we started going more. So Panopticon, we found a cameraman, but we had all locations planned by ourselves, all the lights planned by ourselves, basically the editing, I was doing editing of the music video, and I'm kind of digging it because it also gives you this creative freedom of make a music video as you want and support the song as you want. So I'm playing around with those.
I noticed that you have released a few cover songs on YouTube. I saw Architects, SPIRITBOX. I saw. So what's the idea behind? Is it just fun, or what's the idea behind?
It's fun and practice. Basically, for me, I really love diverse vocals, and I really want to be able to do many different techniques. And one of the best ways to get there is actually by covering people who you like and trying to replicate their technique. So that's why, like Sam Carter or Courtney from SPIRITBOX, it's such a good example. They're so different, and if I can nail, or at least go close somewhere, to both of them, it gives me a bigger variety. Also, it's very useful in terms of looking how they write their songs, because I take some elements of their songwriting and I can also incorporate in our songs. So this is fun, but it's still also a very good practice for me to, try to work on my technique and all of this. So I really like it as a practice level.
I think it also really helped us to maybe learn how to film stuff, because we also film it all ourselves in our apartment. And that really required us to learn how to behave with the camera.
Find the gear, get used to being in front of the camera, feeling natural, and understanding what works, what doesn't work.
And that insanely helps when we then film a music video, because we know what kind of settings we're doing to make what is required to make a good lighting, what are the frames that we need
to take. Shoot, how many,
It helps immensely.
Coming back to the album, Eissa, you write the lyrics, I guess, and how does the lyric writing work? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Well, I mostly take inspiration from people, personality, human as a, being. I'm really interested in how it all works with us, humans. I'm very interested in this topic about why are we unhappy? Why are different people unhappy? What is holding them back? What is going with their lives? What are their struggles? How can they overcome their fears? All of this, their emotion, their feeling, their thoughts. All of this really inspires me because I look around, I look how my friends live, I listen to stories. There's some my personal experiences, what I struggle with, what I had experienced, what are my problems. All of this actually inspires me a lot, and I mostly, and I would say only so far, write about these personal struggles. So I think that's why lyrics might be relevant to some people, because some of them go through similar things that were happening and they can relate probably.
You gave a good keyword, inspirations. I guess you are not only metal musicians, you are also metal fans. And as a metal fan, Kris, what are your top three metal albums?
Albums, okay. Well, I think to this day, this will still be the one from Tesseract. That's their first album, or the EP Concealing Fate. Well, it's basically the same thing. Then what else? I think the latest North Plains album, which is Alien. I would say actually Alien was like, it is their
Yeah, I mean,
first...
it's not the latest.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
I know the
one
topic.
before latest. Alien. For the third one, I actually don't know. That's really hard to say. There are so many.
I would choose a SPIRITBOX singles collection. Not the album, not the EP, but the singles collection, which was in between, was absolutely incredible. I think they just did such a good job.
Yeah.
So what are your albums?
I totally agree on the Tesseract. For me, it's Concealing Fate EP. I just absolutely love it. Till this day, it's incredible. I also think that for me, like the SPIRITBOX single collection is like part of the EP and part of the album. That it was a bit spread, but I think those like singles in between, they were so strong for me, and I am still listening them a lot. Also in terms of like, I would actually choose something from like, maybe it's not like top like the best in the world, but I think one of the albums that really gives me warm feelings all the time is David Maximilian, like the Who Bit the Moon. It's such a relaxing thing. It's just, it's not metal, but it's so beautiful, and he has this phrase, music for the sake of music, and I can relate to it so much. I love it. So that's also a good one.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. What are the metal bands you are still desperate to see live?
Oh, there's actually not so many, because we've been to a lot of shows.
Okay.
Denmark is a beautiful country for this.
Yeah.
But we are very excited to see a Sleep Token. They're not coming to Denmark. They're actually coming to Germany. So we're coming to Germany. But we're still very excited to see Sleep Token. Whom else we didn't see? We actually even saw a SPIRITBOX when they were touring, They had their first tour, and we caught them right, before the pandemic. So even this, they go to Denmark. So Sleep Token.
Yeah, that's interesting. Question. There are many like whom we would like to see, but maybe are not necessarily metal genre.
I mean, I would really go to Novelist show as well. I didn't see them yet, but I mean, in general, we have been able to catch almost everybody.
Almost everything.
Yeah, and I would say even a couple of times. Like we called Tesseract 4 rounds.
Yeah.
We're not stopping there.
Okay. How many Tesseract shows do you do when they are on tour normally? 10, 15?
I think they do a lot. There was a time when they were traveling almost constantly, like back then.
Yeah.
I think they were traveling like basically a whole year tour. And we're like, we started in January, went to their tour, and then in January next year, like, yeah, we can go as well again. So they were traveling a lot. But now I think, of course, pandemic, I think it's like less. They're still do pretty long tours, like 20, 25 shows, I would say.
Wow.
We do a lot.
Interesting. I do have a part in the interviews which I love doing, that is called Let's Get Personal. And what I have is simple questions, a few questions that is either or. So I give you a keyword, or well, no, I give you a choice of 2 options, and you tell me what it is. Shall we start?
Yes.
Try.
Okay, it goes through all aspects of life. Let's start with food. Meat or vegan?
Vegan.
We actually are both vegetarians. So
yes.
Yeah.
Vegan.
Vegetarians or vegan?
In between, lacto-vegetarians, to be precise.
Okay. Then the second question fits to the topic. Cooking at home or restaurant?
Cooking at home.
What do you cook when you cook at home?
Everything, actually.
A lot of stuff.
We can do stews, we can do sushi at home, pizzas, pastas, salads, lots of salads.
I'm a big potato lover, so I know millions of recipes with potatoes.
He's a huge potato fan.
Sounds interesting. So it looks like it's worth visiting you in Denmark.
Yes, and we're very welcoming everybody to, get to see us, and we always cook some food, so please enjoy.
It's pretty fun that we both cook.
Okay, be careful. The video might have 1,000 viewers. You might have 1,000 guests then at your home.
Okay, we're friendly people.
Okay, car or bicycle?
That's an interesting one because we normally were only taking bicycles in Denmark because the infrastructure here is incredibly good.
And it's healthy and green, and that's bicycle is super.
Yeah, but during pandemic, we actually bought a car just to have the opportunity to go somewhere. Like, since you can't really go to work or like to restaurants or something, you want to go somewhere into the nature. Where that it has just different look from what you see normally in your apartment, and for that reason we bought a car, and now we have it.
Yeah, I would maybe at this point of life I would unfortunately choose car because of this flexibility in terms of traveling. But in general, I mean, if we talk about city, bicycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we still use it.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned landscapes. Let's come to holidays. Sea or mountains? Do you prefer?
Mountains.
Probably mountains. Right now, mountains. Yeah.
That was scary.
In Denmark, you have seas all over the place, but you don't have mountains.
Yeah.
That's the same in Latvia. We have lots of beaches, but we don't have mountains, so that's why for us mountains it's so precious.
Do you have any recommendations for Denmark for holiday?
Yes, I would highly recommend going to North Jutland and seeing those two deserts. And also what really impressed us were these mines.
Yeah.
Amazing mines. You can basically go, they allow you to go anywhere with your own light, so you can explore those caves and huge cages. Oh, beautiful. So North Jutland. Okay. Highly recommend.
And Latvia, what about Latvia?
It's an incredible country in terms of food. Beaches are amazing. Beaches are very soft sand.
And service in general.
Service in general. So you can, for quite cheap money, have a very good service and very relaxing time. So, you can just chill and many things to try, and everybody will try to help.
Yeah, we also have like amazing restaurants, as you said.
Yeah.
The food is amazing there.
Yeah.
Gym or sofa?
We say beach volleyball court. Definitely not sofa, but we're not a fan of gym, so sports. I would say sports.
Yeah, sports, of course, sports in general.
Yeah, we had too much sofa in COVID.
Yeah, we all had, I think, and gyms were closed. So let's say sport or sofa. You prefer sport. Do you have any favorite?
Yeah, I think we really like beach volleyball. It's first of all, it's beach, and we have lots of beaches.
Right.
It's comfortable, and it's also collaborative sport. So it's also really nice that it's not like one winner, but you can play two, and then you can play with your friends. So it's also very communicative, collaborative games.
During summer, we actually did it on a regular basis.
Yeah,
so.
like regularly after work, we just grab our things and go to the beach.
And it seems to be beach volleyball is very popular in Denmark.
I would say it's very popular in Latvia.
In Latvia, okay.
In Latvia, it's crazy popular. Like, I mean, a couple of years, I don't remember when, but actually Latvia won an Olympic Games in beach volleyball.
I'm not sure that she won exactly Olympic Games, but we had very good medals.
I actually think we won, but
well, you can check this fact. We're not promising anything, but Latvia is good. I mean, we're getting medals and tournaments, and and we have all the beaches. Every beach in Latvia is basically has spots for just come and play. So let's go.
I think in Germany here, beach volleyball is also very popular, and I think they did have some good beach volleyball teams, especially with the ladies, I think, but also the men. So it's really popular. And I still remember some years ago, in the summer they put then up the big arenas and put the beach sand into the arenas, and so to have the beach volleyball tournaments. So. Going out, you are going out probably. Theater or nightclub, what do you prefer?
Probably a nightclub, or it really depends on what kind of club it is. But I'm not super huge fan of theaters, so
Let's call it metal nightclub.
Metal nightclub. Or let's say, do you prefer early nights or do you prefer late nights out?
Oh, I'm choosing early nights. I'm just falling asleep at midnight.
Okay, but some metal nights might go longer than that. So you,
Yeah, I mean, if it's like once in a while, then it's fine. But usually, actually, even concerts in Denmark, they start around 7, 8,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
end around
yeah.
11. So in midnight, I'm already in my bed enjoying my life.
Right. And you saw the headliner, so you saw already when SPIRITBOX.
Yes, I mean, exactly.
Excellent. Being at home, dog or cat? Do you prefer dog or cat?
I would say maybe if we have to choose, then dog.
probably dog. Yeah.
Yeah, dog.
Yeah. Okay. Did you have something when you were a child? So did you have any animals around? So cats or dogs?
I had rats, I had turtle, I had parrots.
Okay.
What else did I have? He had fish.
I am allergic to animals' fur, so
Right.
I'm not that happy in that regard.
Yeah.
But fish is all right, isn't it?
It's okay.
You don't eat fish. Yeah, you are vegan, so you don't eat fish.
They're friends. They're not friends.
When you are at home and you watch television, do you prefer a thriller or a comedy?
I'm definitely a thriller.
Me too.
It is quite seldom that I enjoy comedy. It should be a really good one.
Yeah. I think for us to enjoy comedy, it shouldn't be main genre of comedy. It should be something else with elements of comedy.
Yeah.
So I would also choose a good thriller.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite one? Thriller?
Hard to say. I don't really have a favorite.
I think we're not like movie people. We're so much into music that we don't not very into movies.
What that really comes to mind is this movie called Seven.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Brad Pitt, I think. It's a pretty old one. And Morgan Freeman, maybe? I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
The atmosphere is pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, I liked it as well. But you know, one thing about thrillers is the music is probably better probably more metal than comedies.
Yeah, that could also influence our choice.
Let's circle back a little bit to our music topic. Download or vinyl? What do you prefer?
Download. I think in terms of having like analog music somehow, for some reason, I don't really understand it. It's not like I don't get it, but it's like I don't like hear what people hear when they listen to vinyl. So I know that they describe it like so cool and like it's a whole different experience, but I don't know what maybe my ears aren't trained, but I can't hear that. But when we download the lossless quality music, like FLAC or whatever, and then we put it, we have a good sound system, of course. And we put it, on speakers. Oh, this one I dig.
Yeah, I think it is more important, or at least to me, like what do you listen to it on, or like what do you use for listening into?
Yeah.
Like, is it good speakers or good headphones? I think that definitely can give you quite a lot of enjoyment if you use the proper equipment for that.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe we didn't have that much experience with vinyl. I mean, we did listen to some vinyl. Our friend had a vinyl player.
We didn't dig it. I mean,
well, first of all, I don't think we listened to a lot of metal there with vinyl. Secondly, I don't really remember if he had a good acoustic system for that. So I don't know. Maybe our reviews will change if we listen to some super high quality vinyl metal something.
For this album, do you plan to release vinyls?
I think so far no, even though we're actually thinking about it and people asked us about it. But yeah, so far we wanted to go start slow. We had T-shirts and CDs, and we just wanted actually to see how many people will actually buy it. We don't want to end up with lots of merch. And now, actually, when we see that people are actually buying and we have almost nothing left, maybe we would consider something special for our next album. Maybe a couple of vinyls, like exclusive ones. So
it was quite fun that when Liz proposed to make like CDs and sell them, I was like, who uses them? Wait, what? And we actually had a bet, like I said, that we will not really sell many of them. However, we actually sold many of them, and I kind of lost the bet.
Yeah, totally. Just
3
times, 4 times more than he was proposing. So thank you very much. I won.
Yeah.
Let's come back to the music topic a little bit. You are from Latvia, and metal in Latvia, let's say, is probably a little bit different story than metal compared in Scandinavia. Sweden, also Denmark is a strong metal country. So how important is metal in Latvia?
I would say this is more like a sad story.
Yeah.
I mean, Latvia is poorer country than Scandinavia. So what we see in Scandinavia in general, people are richer, so they can afford themselves more.
Mm-hmm.
And this also influences like the sound, the quality, the performance. We have a couple of bands in Copenhagen which we heard supporting like bigger bands, and we were so surprised that they're like local bands because they're so good and they have lighting show and they sound amazing and they have super expensive guitars, like wow. In Latvia it's a bit different story because there's way less money in the industry in general, so people are poorer. They not often buy your merch when you're a local band, and when they don't buy your merch, you don't earn, but you have to pay for rehearsal. So I would say there's still many bands in Latvia and they do amazing job and they give a great quality, but it's more like, kind of, to me, it feels like non-conformist. So it's like they do it no matter what, not because it's somehow supported, but because they really love it and they still deliver amazing results. Like government doesn't support it, almost doesn't support it at all. And it's very hard to raise some kind of interest of the radio stations in Latvia.
It's really hard to know how or what do you need to do to actually make living out of it. I mean, in Latvia, like there are so many bands who are just starting and they are making their first song, maybe do some first shows, maybe even make a DIY album or something, but no one really knows what to do next because basically there are no gains from this first album or show. It's like, okay, everyone clapped, came to the show,
but you don't get paid for it. You don't get paid for your song streaming on radio. You can be invited to festival, but again,
to go on, you need to invest tremendously in terms of money and time, and then you're asking yourself, okay, how much do I need to risk to start getting something back? And no one really knows how much you need to invest, at least in Latvia. I think there is a huge problem in that regard. I mean, talking to my friends, no one really knows, okay, let's say in Latvia, I'm a musician, I have a band, and I would like to develop into a band or something. No one really knows how to do it.
Yeah, we don't have proper labels. We don't have proper we have small labels, small booking agents, small tour agents, but it's not something big, I think in Germany when you find that he can make you 30 shows.
You have good venues for concerts, festivals?
We have also a problem with venues in Latvia because they're closing again now because of the energy crisis. I wanted to book a venue for a music video and they just said we can't do it. It's too expensive for us. So the venues are closing. There were a couple of nice ones actually, but it's not any local band can come and say, hey, we want a show, and they'll say, yeah. Right. Yeah, so we have a couple of festivals as well in Latvia, and I would say the bigger established bands can actually benefit from it a lot, and there are many people joining those festivals. But if you're a young band, then it's harder for you because nobody knows you.
And the venues are not so good. I mean,
not all of them. The active ones are smaller and not so good.
Yeah. On the opposite side, I mean, we've been to Lithuania, and venues there are amazing. Wow,
incredible, and staff is so experienced and they're so skillful. It was such a pleasure.
It much more reminds me of Scandinavia, really. We've been in Vilnius, I think.
Narauti.
Yeah, there's like a small club for sub 100 people, maybe 50, 80. However, it is like professionally acoustically treated. Like even the room itself is of a weird shape to make the acoustic better. Yeah. And it's all like silenced and like with the acoustic panels, and the guys were absolutely professional there. For us, it was like a little bit of a culture shock, like in comparison to what we have in Latvia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Latvia is more like a non-conformist.
Okay. Morphide is an independent band. Are you looking for a label currently?
Actually, no.
No, we are not. At this moment, we are not big fans of labels because we don't see too much value in that. We want to make Morphide something that we invest into it and then it pays us back. But label is this, second stage in between, middleman. Yeah. Then right. If you're not a huge band and can dictate their rules, and it can take as much money as they want, which is fair because they give you services. So we don't think that at this point we're looking for that, because we want to benefit from a band and we want to earn money. So for example, about our merch or our CDs and t-shirts, we got everything back, and we actually. That's impressive because we almost paid all our expenses. I think we paid all our expenses in terms of like album, music videos, very expensive mixing stuff. So this is where we see like a pleasure of being musicians, because we understand that we not only, invest and see payback. We see how it comes back and that people support us, and we get every single cent back. So we feel that support very directly. And I think label, it can give you more, but it can also like and we also heard like fun stories that are scaring us for now, so no, we're not looking for labels.
I think in general there's a trend that bands are actually going away from labels and trying to do their stuff on their own.
Yeah.
I think here what is really important is just to have a good team,
good manager, good like guys who make you music videos, very good sound engineer. So everybody whom you need, maybe necessarily not with the help of label, because these are just like money guys.
And obviously you then hire agency or something to book your tour. And like if you're getting on a bigger scale, of course you will need some like services to get on.
PR or whatever, but you can get it yourself.
Right. So do you see any challenges of being an independent band, or?
I mean, obviously there's so many things you have to figure out yourself. And I mean, it would be much easier when you have like, if you're only starting and there's a label who wants to work with you and you're like, yeah, I just want to try and see how it works. I think it's 10 times easier, because there are people who already know how to correctly release your music, how to, put it into distributor, how to, where to print CDs, where to print merch. Maybe they're working with some booking agencies, they can schedule you some kind of tour. So it's obviously much easier in terms of, having everything in one place. There are like direct contacts who can help you with all of it at the same time. But if you're having fun from that, like we do, you don't necessarily need to do that. You just need to investigate and then see what works for you. And that's actually also fun. It's part of fun if you enjoy searching for new information and being in control. So there's advantage and disadvantage.
It's a trade.
Right.
If you're on a label, you're basically a little bit out of control of what and when you can release, I would say, and how much money you can get from it.
How much money can you spend on it? Like label gives you money and give you very like precise numbers which you can't distribute as you would like to. And if you're independent, you have more complications, more maybe risks, but also more freedom.
More freedom. What are the next plans for Morphide?
Definitely more new music. Definitely. We're already working on it. And as we said many times, we don't want to, release an album and then relax for 3 years. That's not going to happen. We are really like enjoying writing new songs, and we're trying to get more material. And we are crossing our fingers and hoping that, well, everybody forgot about COVID and there's no pandemic anymore. And we really want to go on tour next year, maybe start giving shows, because it's an amazing feeling and we miss it so much. So we definitely want to perform and release new songs, find ourselves, find our style, explore. It's so much fun, and we don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
And I definitely would look forward to a Morphide tour, also going through Germany, of course.
Yes, that's close to us, so we also hope for Germany.
And we do have good venues and a lot of fans who actually also probably would love your music. Is there any final word you want to tell the Metal Temple Reader magazine readers or your fans?
I would personally want to thank everybody for spending time and hanging with us, and also for their endless support. This is something that just warms my heart every day, and it just means the world for us. Seriously, it's a great feeling of knowing that there are people who love what you do, and it gives so much power and strength and inspiration to keep going with that. So a huge thank you for listening to us, and huge thank you to you for having us and having this conversation about our music. And everyone who shares about some information, shares a word about us, is giving actually us a big favor. So a big thank you to all of you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And the whole response with the album was amazing so far. So, and for the whole support, that's amazing. So
mind blowing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that very cool interview with you. Thank you.
Thank you
for
very much.
hosting.
Eissa, legs to fall.